Welcome to Science Reshaped, a calm space where the mysteries of the mind unfold like dreams themselves. Before we begin tonight's exploration, please subscribe to Science Reshaped and tell us where you're listening from. Somewhere across the world, another mind might be drifting into the same strange landscape you enter each night, the quiet theater of dreams. Every night, your brain takes you somewhere else. It paints worlds that don't exist, fills them with people who may never have lived, and lets you fly, fall, or breathe underwater as though you were born to do it. And even though you spend nearly a third of your life in this private cinema, most of it disappears by morning, leaving only fragments that feel real enough to haunt you. But impossible to explain, the question is ancient, but still unsolved. Why do we dream at all? For centuries, people believed dreams were messages, divine letters from gods, ancestors, or the soul itself. In ancient Egypt, dream interpreters stood beside priests, decoding symbols as if translating celestial language. In Greece, temples were built for sleeping places, where people sought visions that might cure illness or reveal fate. Even today, we speak of dreams as secrets, as if something inside us is trying to whisper a truth we've forgotten. But science has been chasing that whisper too. The more we learn about the brain, the more it becomes clear that dreams are not random. They are a form of thinking, a different mode of consciousness that switches on when we lie still and the world outside fades away. When you fall asleep, your body relaxes, but your mind does not. It cycles through stages: light sleep, deep sleep, and the one where dreams come alive, REM, or rapid eye movement sleep. In this stage, your brain becomes almost as active as it is when you're awake. Your eyes dart beneath closed lids, your heart rate quickens, your breathing shifts, and yet your muscles are paralyzed. You are awake inside but sealed off from movement, trapped in the theater of your mind. During REM sleep, the brain's visual centers light up. The limbic system, where emotions live, becomes highly active. But the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for logic and self-control, quiets down. It's the perfect storm. Imagination without restraint, emotion without reason. In that state, your mind becomes a storyteller. It builds scenes, invents characters, and sets them into motion, not to entertain you, but to process you. Dreaming, scientists now believe, may be the brain's way of organizing chaos. Every day, you absorb more information than you realize. Faces in passing, colors, words, emotions, fears. The brain cannot hold all of it consciously. So while you sleep, it sifts through it, replays it, reshapes it, and decides what to keep. Dreams are that process, unfolding in real time. They aren't nonsense. They're rehearsals. Your brain simulates danger so you can practice surviving it. It revives old memories to integrate them with new experiences. It weaves emotion into narrative so you can wake up with a more stable mind. Dreams are the psychological version of cleaning your house, a nightly reorganization of thought. But there's another layer, one more mysterious. Some researchers, like Harvard's Alan Hobson, argue that dreams are simply byproducts, the brain's interpretation of random signals during REM. Others see them as simulations, mental exercises that strengthen problem-solving, empathy, and creativity. The evidence leans toward both artists and scientists alike have drawn brilliance from dreams. Paul McCartney heard the melody of yesterday in a dream. The chemist August Kikol dreamed of a snake biting its tail, revealing to him the circular structure of the benzene molecule. Even Einstein once said that his theory of relativity came from a dream about sliding down a beam of light. Perhaps dreams are the brain's way of freeing itself, of thinking beyond logic, where creativity is born. When the prefrontal cortex sleeps, imagination wakes. In that freedom, the mind can combine things it never would while awake. It can test ideas, relive loss, or simulate futures. It can speak in the language of images because words are too small for what it's trying to say. And yet, for all this brilliance, the content of dreams remains deeply personal. No two people dream the same way. Some dream in vivid color, others in faint shadows. Some are haunted by recurring places or faces, while others drift through unfamiliar cities that feel like home. Even the same person can shift from flight to fear, from wonder to sorrow, in the span of a few moments, because the brain isn't following a script. It's responding to emotion. When you feel anxious, your dreams become chaotic, full of chase and escape. When you feel at peace, they become gentle and strange, like whispered lullabies. Your mind is speaking to itself in metaphor. Every door, every fall, every shadow has meaning, not mystical, but psychological. The falling dream, for example, often comes when you feel loss of control. Being chased often reflects stress you can't face. Flying, on the other hand, is a release, the mind's way of saying, you're free again. But perhaps the most haunting truth about dreams is how fragile they are. You wake up, and they vanish. You reach for them, but they slip through your fingers like smoke. Scientists call this dream amnesia. The brain's short-term memory systems, especially the hippocampus, stay partially inactive during REM sleep. So while your dreaming mind feels everything vividly, your waking mind has nowhere to store it. It's like trying to hold water in open hands. Still, fragments survive, flashes of faces, feelings, colors, enough to remind you that something profound happened in the night. You may not remember the dream, but the brain does. The emotional traces stay. That's why you can wake up peaceful after a nightmare, or uneasy after a beautiful dream. The experience remains encoded even when the images are gone. Dreams, in that sense, are not forgotten. They are absorbed. They become part of who you are, influencing your mood, your imagination, even your sense of reality. When you wake, the world feels different because, in a way, you've just lived another one. So perhaps the question isn't, why do we dream? But how could we not? The mind needs to dream like the body needs to breathe. It's how we heal, how we remember, how we make sense of ourselves. Dreams are not the opposite of waking. They are its companion. And somewhere, deep inside your sleeping brain, right now or tonight, another dream is forming, unpredictable, beautiful, and utterly your own. When you drift into sleep, it feels like falling, not downward, but inward, as if the world outside is quietly dissolving. Your body softens, your breathing slows, and your awareness begins to unthread itself from the day. It's here, in this space between wakefulness and oblivion, that dreams begin to weave their first threads. Scientists call this the hypnagogic state, the borderland between conscious thought and unconscious imagery. It's where logic gives way to fragments, flashes of color, faces that blur, sounds that seem to come from nowhere. You might see something, a door, a light, a person, and then it's gone. These are the first signals from the dreaming brain. They're not yet stories, but sparks. As sleep deepens, you enter the rhythm of cycles. About every 90 minutes, your brain moves through stages: light sleep, deep sleep, and REM, each with its own purpose. Deep sleep heals the body. REM dreams heal the mind. During REM, your brain temperature rises, blood flow increases, and neurons fire in intricate patterns. Almost as if they're rehearsing something. The body lies paralyzed, but the mind dances in the dark. It's an astonishing paradox. You're most mentally active when you seem most still. Brain scans show that the visual cortex lights up as if you're seeing real images. The amygdala, the brain's emotional core, pulses with activity. And your hippocampus, the region that organizes memory, begins to replay fragments of your day, stitching them into new contexts. But the prefrontal cortex, the part that keeps logic and order, is dialed down. The storyteller is awake. The critic is asleep. That's why dreams feel so fluid, so strange. In waking life, your brain filters thoughts, keeping them consistent and realistic. But in dreams, that gatekeeper is gone. The mind begins to mix things freely, people from different times, places that never existed, emotions that don't belong together. It's improvisation on a cosmic scale. You might find yourself back in your childhood home, speaking to someone who passed away, standing under a violet sky where gravity no longer matters. To the dreaming brain, this is perfectly natural. It doesn't need to explain, it only needs to feel. emotion drives everything. Studies show that the emotional centers of the brain are more active in REM sleep than at any other time. That's why even the most nonsensical dream feels charged with meaning. You can wake up with your heart pounding, your eyes wet, or your chest full of awe, even if nothing in the dream made sense. Your brain isn't confused. It's communicating in the language of emotion. In waking life, emotion is filtered through reason. You feel anger, but you suppress it. You feel fear, but you analyze it. Dreaming releases those boundaries. The emotions you don't process by day find their stage at night. A nightmare, in that sense, isn't punishment, it's catharsis. It's your mind turning over what it couldn't resolve while awake. REM sleep acts as an emotional regulator. When we lose it through stress, insomnia, or anxiety, our emotional balance falters. People deprived of REM become more reactive, more impulsive, more prone to mood swings. It's as if dreams are the brain's nightly therapy session. It's helping you let go of the heat of emotion while keeping the lesson it carried. But dreams do more than calm us. They teach us. Neuroscientists believe dreaming is the brain's way of practicing. It simulates danger, rehearses responses, and refines behavior. This is known as the threat simulation theory. Evolution may have selected dreamers for survival. When our ancestors dreamed of predators or conflict, they were rehearsing for real danger, safely. That rehearsal still happens, though now our threats are more abstract. Embarrassment, failure, heartbreak. Even the bizarre logic of dreams serves a purpose. In the dream world, cause and effect are loosened, time folds in on itself, and the impossible becomes normal. That flexibility trains the brain to be creative, to problem solve in non-linear ways. It's no coincidence that some of history's greatest insights from artists, inventors, and scientists arrived in dreams. In the late 19th century, Russian chemist Dmitry Mendeleev had been struggling to organize the chemical elements. Exhausted, he fell asleep at his desk. In his dream, the elements arranged themselves in a perfect table by weight and property, and when he awoke, he wrote it down. The periodic table of elements, one of the pillars of science, was born from a dream. The mind at night is a genius in disguise. When the world goes quiet, the brain becomes free to play, to explore without fear of error. The same networks that create dreams are the ones that generate imagination and insight. To dream is to create without consequence, to think without judgment. Still, the dreaming brain isn't only imaginative, it's deeply physical. The REM state is coordinated by the brainstem, a region older than our species. Its electrical rhythms ripple upward through the cortex, synchronizing neurons and waves. This electrical hum is so distinct that researchers can detect the onset of REM just by listening to the frequency of your brain waves. You could say dreams are a song the brain plays to itself, one we can't yet hear fully, but whose rhythm guides our rest. And while we often think of dreams as purely mental, the body participates too. During REM, your heart rate fluctuates wildly, mirroring your emotional state in the dream. If you run in a dream, your pulse may quicken. If you cry, your breathing shifts. The mind and body remain entwined, each echoing the other. Even across sleep's divide, that connection has curious consequences. In some people, the paralysis of REM doesn't fully engage a condition known as REM behavior disorder. They physically act out their dreams, speaking, kicking, or moving in response to what their mind imagines. For researchers, such rare cases are windows into the mechanics of dreaming. They show how the brain's virtual world can temporarily override reality, and yet, for all its scientific precision, something about dreaming defies explanation. Why do we see faces we've never met? Why do we revisit the same places again and again, as if they exist somewhere in memory, waiting? Why do some dreams feel more real than waking life? No brain scan, no theory, has fully answered that. It may be because dreams aren't just biological, they're existential. They're the mind's way of keeping its story alive. Every night, your brain restores its narrative, reminding itself who you are, what you fear, what you hope for. It's a rehearsal for identity itself. And when morning comes, and those worlds dissolve like mist, you return carrying something invisible, a slightly rearranged version of yourself. Dreaming doesn't end when you wake. It changes form. Daydreams, imagination, memory, they are all echoes of the same process. The brain never stops dreaming. It only shifts focus. Even now, as you listen, your mind is shaping images, weaving meaning, filling silence with its own voice. Dreaming, then, isn't a mystery to be solved. It's a reminder that consciousness itself is creative. That the same mind that invented gods and galaxies and art also invents entire worlds every night. Just to understand its own reflection, every night, when consciousness dissolves into sleep, your brain performs an extraordinary trick. It detaches you from the world outside and turns its full attention inward. What unfolds is not simple rest. It's an entire inner universe, shaped by memory, emotion, and imagination. Dreams are that universe in motion, a language without words, story that tells itself. When you fall asleep, the world doesn't vanish. Your brain simply builds another one in its place. Inside your skull, billions of neurons begin to fire in coordinated waves. They light up in patterns that resemble waking perception, yet the source of those signals is not your eyes or ears, it's you. The brain becomes its own environment, simulating a reality made entirely of itself. It's strange to think about. But when you dream, you are both the architect and the audience. Every character you meet, every voice you hear, every color you see is being generated and experienced by the same mind. It's as if you've built a stage, written a play, and then stepped inside to perform it, forgetting for a moment that you are everyone and everything on that stage. Neuroscientists studying this phenomenon called dreams internal hallucinations. The visual cortex paints scenes, the temporal lobes summon sound, and the limbic system supplies emotion, yet none of it is coming from the outside world. It's the same machinery you use to perceive reality, now working without external input. You are dreaming not with a separate part of your mind, but with the same circuits that define waking life. That overlap might be the reason dreams feel so real. When you see a face in a dream, your brain activates the same regions it would if you were seeing a real person. When you feel fear, the amygdala fires as if danger were truly near. Even pain and touch can be simulated. The body sleeps, but the nervous system doesn't forget how to feel. But why does the brain go to such elaborate lengths to create this illusion every night? Some scientists think it's because the mind needs a world to inhabit, even when cut off from sensory input. Deprived of the external world, the brain invents an internal one to stay active, to preserve its sense of continuity. In this view, dreams are the brain keeping itself alive through storytelling. Others believe it's about integration. The sleeping brain replays fragments of experience, a conversation, a fear, a sound, and binds them together with old memories, forming new associations. This process, known as memory consolidation, helps determine what you'll remember tomorrow and what will fade. Without dreaming, memory loses coherence. People deprived of REM sleep struggle to learn, to focus, to make sense of their own thoughts. The mind needs the night to digest the day, but something deeper happens. Something almost philosophical. Dreams blur the line between real and imagined, reminding us that perception itself is a kind of controlled hallucination. Everything you experience, even while awake, is a reconstruction. Your brain receives light, sound, texture, and electrical impulses, then interprets them into what you call reality. Dreaming simply removes the outside world and lets that interpretive process run free, in a way. Every waking moment is built from the same material as dreams. The only difference is consensus. When others see what you see, you call it real. When you see it alone, you call it a dream. The deeper scientists look, the less clear the boundary becomes. Brain scans show that many of the same neural patterns occur during imagination, daydreaming, and REM sleep. Even while awake, your brain spends enormous energy simulating possibilities, predicting outcomes, visualizing alternatives, testing futures. Dreams are simply the most vivid form of that simulation, a nightly rehearsal for existence. There's another layer to it: emotion. Dreams are not random visual shows. They're guided by feeling. The amygdala, hippocampus. In anterior cingulate cortex, the brain's emotional network, glow brightest during REM. This is why dreams often exaggerate mood. Joy becomes euphoria. Fear becomes terror. The brain magnifies emotions not to torture you, but to process them fully. When you wake from a nightmare, your body often feels relief. That's not just psychological. Studies show that after REM sleep, levels of stress hormones like norepinephrine drop significantly. The brain has metabolized emotion, experienced fear in a safe space, resolved it, and moved on. It's emotional housekeeping. Even recurring dreams, the ones that loop for years, may serve that purpose. They return because the emotion they carry remains unresolved. The brain keeps reopening that chapter, searching for closure. Once the emotion is finally addressed in waking life, those dreams often fade. In this way, dreaming and healing are quietly intertwined. Lucid dreaming takes this one step further. In rare moments, the dreaming mind becomes aware of itself, realizing it's dreaming without waking up. Brain imaging shows that during lucid dreams, the prefrontal cortex, normally quiet during REM, flickers back to life. Logic re-enters the picture, giving the dreamer control. In that state, you can direct the dream, explore it consciously, even alter its story. To some researchers, this is a glimpse of what consciousness itself might be. Awareness existing independently inside a self-created world. Dreams, then, are more than random byproducts or meaningless illusions. They're mirrors reflecting the mind's effort to understand itself. Each night, your brain constructs a world from the fragments of your thoughts, runs simulations of emotion and action, and wakes you with the residue of meaning in waking life. We tend to see consciousness as linear, one thought following another, neatly arranged. But dreaming reveals how non-linear it really is. The mind doesn't think in straight lines. It loops, weaves, and merges ideas that seem unrelated. That's why the logic of dreams can feel strange, but strangely right, as if following a different kind of order. One built from association instead of causation too. Dream is to glimpse that deeper. Logic, the logic of imagination itself. You might wake up wondering why you saw a hallway filled with mirrors, or a river that flowed backward, or a clock with no hands. Those symbols may not be messages from outside. They're messages from within. The brain doesn't speak in language during REM, it speaks in metaphor. Every image, no matter how surreal, is a fragment of your inner weather. Dream interpretation, though often dismissed as pseudoscience, has found new life in neuroscience. Therapists use dream analysis, not as prophecy, but as insight. The dream reveals what the conscious mind hides. You can learn from it, not by asking what it predicts, but by asking what it reflects. Because in the end, every dream is about you, your fears, your hopes, your unresolved emotions, your quiet brilliance. The mind shows itself through symbols, because that's the only language vast enough for what it feels. And when you open your eyes, the story dissolves, but not completely. Its emotional residue remains, shaping the texture of your day. That's the true secret of dreams. They never really end. They echo through waking life, coloring every moment with the faint shimmer of another world that exists only inside you. Dreams are not only stories we witness, they are experiences we live. The brain doesn't simply tell you a tale. It places you inside it, engages every sense, and convinces you that what's happening is real, even when it defies reason. You don't watch dreams, you become them. This immersive quality has long fascinated scientists. When a person dreams of running, the same motor regions of the brain activate as if the body were truly in motion. When they taste, touch, or feel heat, the sensory cortex lights up in almost identical patterns to waking experience. Yet the body remains perfectly still. Its muscles silenced by the brainstem's nightly command, paralysis designed to protect us from acting out our dreams. But what happens when that barrier slips? For some people, it does. In rare cases of REM behavior disorder, the paralysis fails, and dreamers act out their imagined worlds. They reach, run, speak, even fight, as if their minds have temporarily replaced waking reality with another. These moments reveal how tangible dreams are to the brain. They're not shadow plays or vague imaginings. They're full sensory simulations, indistinguishable from life itself. It's as though, for a few hours each night, we step into a virtual world built by neurons, a reality where imagination and memory blend seamlessly. And like any world, it follows rules not of physics, but of emotion and association. You may have noticed that dreams have their own gravity. They bend logic but not feeling. If you believe you can fly, you do. If you fear you're trapped, you are. The moment emotion shifts, the landscape changes. In this way, the dreaming mind turns emotion into environment, anxiety becomes collapsing walls. Joy becomes flight, curiosity becomes endless hallways. The setting reflects the state. This emotional translation is part of what makes dreams so powerful as tools of understanding. They externalize what we internalize. The brain doesn't communicate in language during REM. Words require structure and logic. Instead, it paints metaphors. When you're overwhelmed, you may dream of drowning. When you're moving on, you may dream of traveling or packing. It's not superstition, it's neurology. The dreaming brain translates emotion into imagery because that's the only medium it can use when words are silent. Freud once called dreams the royal road to the unconscious, though his interpretations lean toward desire. Modern neuroscience keeps the road, but changes the map. Today, we see dreams not as cryptic messages, but as emotional maintenance. They regulate mood, reshape memory, and allow safe rehearsal of fear. In fact, nightmares may be a crucial part of mental health. Controlled stress tests that prepare you for real life. When you face danger in a dream, when you fall, fight or flee, your amygdala and brainstem practice responding without consequence. You wake calmer, not because the dream was pleasant, but because your brain completed the emotional circuit. In controlled studies, people who experience healthy REM sleep handle stress better, recover from trauma faster, and show greater creativity in problem-solving in that sense. Dreams are not distractions from reality. They're training for it. But the dream world has another layer, the surreal one, where time folds. Faces morph and meaning drips through like watercolor. Here, the brain seems to be doing something else entirely, inventing. When researchers study the brain during REM sleep, they find activity in the default mode network, the same system that lights up during creativity and introspection. It's the part of the brain that allows you to imagine, to daydream, to empathize. During waking life, this network is balanced by the executive control network, the logical, rational side. But in dreams, logic sleeps and imagination rules. The result is a consciousness that's freer, more associative, and infinitely more creative. This is why dreams often blend fragments of reality into new forms. They combine memory, imagination, and abstract thought without boundaries. A single dream might merge a childhood memory, a recent conversation, and a forgotten fear into one seamless narrative. It feels absurd only after you wake. Inside the dream, it feels inevitable, and it's precisely that unfiltered synthesis that fuels creativity. Artists have always known this intuitively. Salvador Dali used to hold a key in his hand as he fell asleep. When his muscles relaxed and the key dropped, the sound would wake him, catching him between sleep and dream. That fragile state where imagination is raw and logic hasn't yet returned. Thomas Edison did something similar with metal balls. Dozing off in a chair to harvest ideas from the borderland between consciousness and dream. Even outside art, this technique called hypnagogic creativity has led to discoveries. The structure of the atom, the melody of symphonies, the equations of science all have emerged from minds wandering freely in the twilight between worlds. Dreams dissolve the boundaries that waking thought imposes. They let the brain connect what logic keeps apart. It's tempting to see dreaming as escapism, but it's more like exploration. Your mind is testing its limits, rearranging its pieces, learning what else it can be. In waking life, you are shaped by what's real. In dreams, you shape what's real yourself, and then morning comes. The alarm cuts through the silence, and the worlds you've built collapse like sandcastles under a tide of light. But even as they fade, something remains, a quiet residue, the faint emotion of what you just lived. Scientists call it dream residue effect. It's why strange mood lingers long after you've forgotten the dream itself. You carry not the story, but its feeling as if the dream left. Fingerprints on your waking consciousness. That residue might be more important than we think. It reminds us that the border between sleeping and waking isn't as sharp as it feels. The same brain, the same neurons, the same chemistry flows through both. Dreaming doesn't end at dawn. It bleeds into the day. Sometimes, when you stare out a window and your thoughts drift, when reality softens at the edges and memories blur with imagination, you're not entirely awake. You're revisiting that inner landscape. It's that quiet place where mind and meaning mingle freely. And maybe that's why dreaming feels so essential. It's not just the brain cleaning up or rehearsing. It's the human spirit remembering what it means to imagine. It's a nightly reminder that reality, too, something we're constantly building. One thought, one feeling, one perception at a time. Dreams show us that creation never stops. Even when we sleep, the universe inside us keeps expanding. Every dream you've ever had, every strange face, every impossible moment, every sky that glowed the wrong color is proof that the mind never truly rests. Sleep is supposed to silence the world, but the brain refuses silence. Instead, it builds. It rearranges. It creates. The science of dreaming, though young, keeps uncovering clues that sound poetic but are entirely real. In 2019, researchers at MIT discovered that neurons in the hippocampus replay sequences of waking experience during sleep, sometimes in reverse. It's as if the brain rewinds the day to analyze it frame by frame. These replays happen faster than life, hours condensed into seconds, allowing the mind to process more than consciousness ever could. Meanwhile, other regions like the ventromedial prefrontal cortex evaluate those memories for meaning. They assign emotional weight, connecting new data to old wisdom. You might not remember doing this, but your brain is literally reinterpreting your life while you dream. That reinterpretation might explain something strange. The sense of revelation that sometimes follows a vivid dream. You wake with a sudden clarity, an understanding of a problem, a feeling resolved. It's not magic. It's your brain handing you the result of a night's analysis. In that sense, dreams are how the mind thinks beyond itself. Waking thought is linear, constrained by attention and time. Dreaming thought is fluid, unconstrained, holistic. It can leap from one idea to another, bridging emotional and rational insight in ways no waking state can. This flexibility is why artists, scientists, and inventors have always honored their dreams. Mary Shelley conceived Frankenstein after a feverish dream about a scientist who reanimates the dead. Elias Howe, the inventor of the sewing machine, dreamed of being attacked by warriors with spears and noticed the hole near the tip. That image led to the design of the sewing needle. The dream mind doesn't create nonsense. It creates connections. It's no coincidence that the same brain, regions active in REM sleep, are those linked to creative thinking while awake. The boundary between dreaming and imagination is porous. Both rely on the brain's ability to wander. In both, the mind steps outside what is and plays with what could be. Yet even as we learn more, one question remains unsolved. Who exactly is dreaming? When you're in a dream, you feel present, aware, alive. You speak, you think, you feel fear or joy, but that you is also part of the dream. The self you believe you are is being generated by the same neural networks that generate the world around it. It's an illusion within an illusion, the mind pretending to be separate from its own creation. That realization blurs the deepest line of all, the one between self and reality. In the waking world, we draw boundaries, me and you, here and there, real and imagined. But dreaming reminds us that all those boundaries are fluid. The world we experience, even awake, is constructed from perception, memory, and expectation. Dreams simply strip away the pretense and show us the process in motion. To dream is to witness the act of creation as it happens. It's the closest you'll ever come to seeing your mind build reality. And maybe that's why dreams feel so sacred, not because they're supernatural, but because they're deeply human. They remind us that consciousness is both fragile and infinite. It can invent and destroy worlds with equal ease. It can find beauty in chaos and meaning in the absurd. When morning comes, the stories vanish, but something remains, a quiet residue of awe. You wake knowing you've traveled somewhere, even if you can't say where. You've been reminded that inside your mind lies an entire cosmos, one that rebuilds itself every night. By the time morning light touches your eyelids, you've lived through entire lifetimes. You've stood in places that don't exist, spoken to people who never were, and felt emotions too vast to name. Dreams compress time. Minutes of REM sleep can hold what feels like hours. The brain bends chronology as easily as it bends space. And when you awaken, the clock insists that it was all an illusion. But to your mind, it was as real as anything you've ever known. That's the strange truth of consciousness. The brain can make reality out of nothing but thought. In dreams, it proves that again and again. Every tree, every city, every sound of rain is generated inside the skull, a full simulation indistinguishable from experience. You hear without ears, see without eyes, and move without muscles. The world of dreams feels external, but it's happening entirely within. What's remarkable is how consistent that illusion is. Most dreamers don't realize they're dreaming. The same mechanisms that build waking reality, perception, emotion, expectation also operate in REM. The result is an alternate version of consciousness. One so convincing that only upon waking do we recognize its strangeness. But some people slip through the seam between worlds. They become lucid, aware, inside the dream, that it isn't real. This state, fragile and rare, reveals how flexible awareness can be. It's as if a small spark of waking consciousness reawakens within sleep, turning the dreamer into both observer and participant. Lucid dreamers describe extraordinary sensations, the ability to fly, to reshape landscapes, to summon memories, or explore impossible worlds. But beyond the spectacle lies something more profound insight. In lucid dreams, the dreamer can confront fears, ask questions, even experience joy without consequence. Some use it as therapy, others as exploration. For scientists, it's a keyhole into consciousness itself. Brain scans of lucid dreamers show a unique hybrid pattern, the high activity of REM combined with bursts in the prefrontal cortex, the center of self-awareness. It's as if two states of mind, waking and dreaming, overlap for a moment. Awareness becomes fluid, no longer tied to the body or the laws of physics. It suggests that consciousness is not an on-off switch, but a spectrum, capable of infinite gradations. In that light, the waking life and dreaming life are not opposites. They're variations on the same process, reality rendered at different levels of control. The dream state loosens the grip of reason. The waking state tightens it again. Between them lies the entire range of human imagination. If you think about it, we already live in layers of dreamlike perception. The mind filters the world constantly, filling in gaps, predicting what comes next. We never see reality directly. We see what the brain constructs. The philosopher David Chalmers once said that consciousness may be the hard problem, not because we can't study it, but because we can't step outside of it to observe it. The dreamer can't step out of the dream, but dreams offer a glimpse of how it all works. When you're flying over a city that doesn't exist, your brain is performing the same miracle it does every day, turning electrical signals into experience. The only difference is that in the dream, signals originate from memory and imagination. It's not from the senses. It's no wonder ancient cultures believed dreams were gateways. They sensed that something beyond logic was unfolding inside them, not divine prophecy, perhaps but a direct encounter with creation. In dreams, the boundary between mind and universe dissolves. The cosmos outside mirrors the cosmos within. There's a hypothesis in modern neuroscience called the predictive brain. It suggests that what we perceive is not the world itself, but the brain's best prediction of it. The mind guesses what's out there, checks those guesses against incoming data, and updates them. In dreams, the feedback loop is closed. No new data arrives, so the brain generates predictions freely. In other words, dreaming is what perception looks like when freed from the anchor of reality. That freedom may be essential to evolution. It allows the brain to test new possibilities, to experiment with perception itself. A species capable of dreaming is a species capable of imagining. And imagination, more than strength or speed, is what drives adaptation. Perhaps that's why all mammals dream. Cats twitch their paws and rim, dogs bark softly at invisible things, rats replay maze paths in their sleep. Even the simplest creatures seem to possess this nightly theater. It's as if nature understood that to survive, a mind must practice creation. And yet, dreams are deeply personal. No two are ever alike. Even the same recurring dream shifts subtly each time, reflecting the changes within you. It's as though your subconscious updates its world as you evolve, keeping pace with your inner life. When you revisit a familiar dream place, a house, a road, a sea, it's never exactly the same. You've changed, and so has it. In that way, dreams are living maps of the self. They trace not where you've been, but who you're becoming. You may think of your mind as a single, continuous identity, but neuroscience reveals something more dynamic. The brain is a collection of networks, emotional, visual, logical, all working together, sometimes in harmony, sometimes in tension. Dreaming gives these networks a chance to communicate in their own language, free from the hierarchy of waking logic. It's a nightly council of the self, a conversation among the parts of you that rarely meet. Dreams also seem to test the boundaries of selfhood. In some dreams, you watch yourself from outside your body as if you were both actor and audience. In others, you become someone else entirely. These shifts might be more than narrative tricks. They may reflect the flexibility of consciousness itself. The mind experiments with perspective. It tries on new versions of I. That experiment could be fundamental to empathy, our ability to imagine what it feels like to be another person. When you dream, your brain activates mirror neurons, the same circuits that allow you to feel what others feel. In dreams, those boundaries dissolve completely. You don't just imagine the other, you are them. This nightly empathy may explain why dreams often carry moral or emotional clarity. You wake not with answers, but with understanding, the kind that doesn't come from logic, but from lived experience. Even if that experience wasn't real. Some scientists, like Matthew Walker, describe REM sleep as a neural therapy chamber. It's where your mind recalibrates empathy, compassion, and social awareness. It's where the emotional noise of life is filtered into meaning. And meaning, perhaps more than memory, is what the mind truly dreams for. If you look closely at your own dreams, you'll notice how often they take the shape of questions. They rarely present solutions. They unfold like riddles. Unfinished stories, open doors, conversations that never quite end. The brain doesn't offer conclusions at night. It offers possibilities. It teaches through ambiguity, because ambiguity is how consciousness grows, and somewhere inside that uncertainty lies the most. It's profound insight of all. Dreams mirror the structure of the cosmos itself, the universe. Two may be in a constant act of creation, not finished, but ongoing. Galaxies swirl, stars are born and die, matter reorganizes. Just as your brain transforms memory and emotion, the universe transforms energy and matter. Both systems thrive on feedback, iteration, and emergence. Both are creative acts that never stop. It's poetic, but not coincidence. The same laws of complexity that govern galaxies also govern neural networks. Both find order in chaos. Both generate patterns from randomness. Both in their own way. Dream, maybe that's why the dream feels so vast, because it's built from the same principles that shape everything else. The mind is not separate from the cosmos. It's the cosmos becoming self-aware. When you dream, the universe is, in a sense, dreaming of itself, exploring new combinations of possibility through you. This idea isn't mysticism. It's science seen with awe. The atoms in your brain were once part of stars. The chemical impulses that create thought were forged from stellar fire. The same forces that spin galaxies drive your neurons to spark and fire. You are literally the universe reflecting on its own creation. Dreaming, then, is the cosmic process continuing inward. It's the pattern of existence repeating on a smaller scale, the expansion of space mirrored by the expansion of imagination. But there's another way to see it. When you dream, you dissolve. The boundary between self and world fades. You become the landscape, the wind, the voice, the story. For a few hours, you stop being a person and become pure awareness, consciousness without coordinates. You're not in the dream. You are the dream. And that state, that pure, selfless awareness might be closer to the true nature of mind than anything you experience awake. Waking life demands a story, name, identity, history. Dreaming strips that away. It reminds you that before you were anything, you were awareness itself. Philosophers and mystics have long hinted at this. The Upanishads of ancient India called waking life the long dream and sleep the short one. Both were seen as expressions of the same consciousness, flickering between form and formlessness. Today, neuroscience doesn't use that language, but it observes something eerily similar: consciousness, modulating itself through cycles of awareness and rest. When the brain returns to deep REM, its waves synchronize into slow, rhythmic pulses. It's the closest science has come to measuring stillness, the physical signature of peace. The body heals, the mind quiets, and for a moment, the self dissolves completely. You're not aware, but you're not gone either. You're simply part of the ongoing rhythm, the breathing of consciousness. And when you finally wake, when light floods your eyes and the story of you restarts, it's easy to forget all that. But a part of you remembers not in words, but in calm. That morning stillness, that strange clarity before thought begins, is the echo of where you've just been. You were inside your own cosmos, the one that exists beneath all others. And tonight, you'll return again. Not to escape the world, but to remember how to create it anew. When the mind finally drifts toward the last stretch of sleep, somewhere between dream and dawn, a quiet transformation takes place. The deepest dreams begin to loosen like sand slipping through open fingers. The worlds you built through the night start to dissolve: the streets, skies, the faces that felt real just moments ago. Yet something of them remains. Faint but undeniable. A feeling, a rhythm, a whisper of connection that follows you back into the waking world. It's easy to think that dreams end when you wake, but they don't. They linger in the folds of thought, shaping perception in ways you never notice. They adjust your mood, your creativity, even your sense of self. The brain doesn't divide the world as neatly as we do. What happens in dreams doesn't stay in sleep. It seeps into consciousness, coloring your choices, influencing how you see everything that comes after. Every dream, no matter how fleeting, adds a brushstroke to the self. And in that sense, you're never quite the same person 2 mornings in a row. Each night, you disappear into imagination, and each morning, you return slightly rearranged, slightly rewritten. Dreaming is the proof that we are not static beings. We are processes, ongoing acts of becoming. The mind doesn't simply observe life. It participates in its own creation. It uses the night to reimagine what it might be, and in doing so, keeps consciousness from becoming still in ancient times. People believed dreams were the soul's way of traveling while the body slept, journeys into other realms. Messages from gods, glimpses of eternity. And though science has replaced myth with brain scans and chemical models, something of that old intuition remains. Dreams do travel, not through heaven, but through the deep geography of the mind. They connect the physical and the intangible, the neural and the emotional, the personal and the cosmic. Even with all we know, dreams remain one of the most intimate mysteries. They are the only time when you become the entire universe of your experience, creator, witness, and world in one. Everything you've ever felt or feared or hoped for exists there, waiting for you each night, beyond memory, beyond language. Sometimes the dreams are chaotic, kaleidoscopes of emotion and memory colliding without order. Sometimes they are simple, a single image, a quiet voice, a landscape that feels impossibly familiar. And sometimes they're so powerful that you wake in tears or laughter, unable to say why. That, too, is meaning. The brain may be sorting data, but the soul is remembering wonder. Dreams remind us that meaning doesn't always need reason. They show us that truth can exist as feeling, that understanding can come without words. They let us practice being alive without the weight of consequence, without the gravity of the real world. They give us a space to explore who we might be if fear, time, and memory no longer bound us. Perhaps that's why some people describe dreaming as a return to something older than waking, something purer. The fetus in the womb spends most of its time in REM sleep. Long before we open our eyes to the world, we are already dreaming. Consciousness begins in imagination, not perception. In that sense, dreaming isn't what happens after life begins. It's how life begins, and when the end eventually comes. When consciousness fades again, many describe visions that mirror dreams' landscapes, voices, faces that rise from memory. Maybe the mind, even in its final moments, returns to the language it has always known. Images, emotion, story. Perhaps the dream is not a nightly detour from reality, but the deeper current running through it, the one we enter and leave countless times without ever truly escaping. The physicist Erwin Schrödinger once wrote that consciousness is a singular field, that what we call individual minds are waves within one greater sea. Dreams may be glimpses of that sea, moments when the boundaries blur and the self returns to the larger flow of being. When you dream, you merge with something vast, collective field of imagination that spans all living things capable of thought. If that sounds abstract, remember this. Every neuron in your brain communicates through light and electricity, the same forces that power the stars. The spark of thought inside you is a reflection of the same physics that ignited the cosmos. In that way, your dreams aren't separate from the universe. They are its continuation. When your brain invents light and shadow, when it constructs entire worlds from memory, it's echoing creation itself, performing in miniature. The same miracle the universe performed at the beginning of time, turning nothing into something. You don't just dream in the universe. The universe dreams through you, and maybe that's why, despite centuries of study, dreams still feel sacred. They are the one place where science and poetry meet, without contradiction. The measurable and the mysterious coexist there, neurons firing in precise patterns, while meaning blooms in ways no equation can predict. It's a reminder that knowledge and wonder are not enemies. They are partners in the same dance. So the next time you wake from a strange, beautiful, or frightening dream, don't dismiss it as nonsense. It was real, not in the physical sense, but in the way experiences are real. They shape who you are. That dream was a version of you that lived and ended before morning, but its echoes are woven into the person reading these words right now and tonight. When you close your eyes again, the process will begin anew. The brain will dim its lights to the world outside and brighten the universe within. The theater will reopen. The mind will take the stage. You will dissolve into story, emotion, and light. And somewhere in that infinite landscape, the mystery of consciousness will continue its quiet work. Dreams are not interruptions of reality. They are its hidden half, the half that teaches us to imagine, to feel, to wonder. So rest tonight knowing that even in stillness, you are part of something vast, a living cosmos that never stops creating, even in the dark. This is Science Reshaped, where we wander through the quiet frontiers of existence. If these reflections bring you calm or curiosity, please subscribe and tell us where you're listening from. Somewhere across this shared night, another mind may be dreaming too, and in that, we are all connected. Because when you dream, the universe listens. And when you awaken, it begins again, reshaped by you. Thank you for listening and subscribing.